Hello everyone, and hey Blind Eye friends. So last time I was reading, we were reading The Wounded Heart, and we read page 43 and 44. We're just basically going to pick up where we left off, and it's part 1A, and so this will be part 1B. That way we can kind of keep track of where we're going and how far we've read into it. I'm a slow reader. I'll make a lot of mistakes, but here we go. Vamos a empezar. All right, so I will just finish like the last little part of 44 so we can kind of like put them together. So one might wish the process of sanctification was merely a stroll down a gentle country lane. In fact, the path is through the dark valleys and into the seemingly impenetrable darkness that eclipses the light of the Son of God. The horror of change is that it appears to involve a death that resurrection cannot restore. Therefore, the only apparent hope is to live in denial and to believe that God wants us to be complacent, spiritualized, autonomous. I view this as a diabolical cover-up, a lie of such proportion and feasibility that it seems eminently reasonable. Sorry, forgive my wonderful not knowing how to spell or read. Anyways, please hold 1 second. I'm not gonna lie, even though I am doing this on purpose, I still get very nervous. Like once I start reading, or like once I like start singing in front of someone or whatever, I still get like all of a sudden super nervous. And when I'm nervous, then I think about all the tiny things. And I was thinking like I didn't have my wedding ring on in the video, and it was bothering me. So I was like, that's all I can think about. And then I'm gonna make more mistakes. So here we go. Anyways, yeah, so nervous. I gotta find my place now, and it's awkward, but here we go. After all, what can be done about a pain of titanic dimension that seems to only get worse to the degree it is touched on, let alone plumbed to its depths? The litany of voices that clamor to sing "Leave well enough alone" are legion, and their degrees, life experience, and cautious reason serve as a numbing influence that dulls the throb in the soul and the pounding of the heart. What is the point in pursuing firm hope and lively joy? Lively joy. The answer is simple. To live out the gospel, the reason for entering the struggle is a desire for more, a taste of what life and love could be if freed from the dark memories and deep shame. No one leaves the lethargy of denial unless there is a spark of discontent that pierces the darkness of daily numbness. To live significantly less than what one was made to be is as severe as betrayal of the soul as the original abuse. Wow. Okay, so I am, like I've said in the other video, not the best reader. I'm kind of slow. I'm a little dyslexic, and yeah, I just like embrace it. That is what I am. It is who I am, whatever. And like, so if this sucks and you hate listening to me read because it's like, I'm like a robot, I totally get it. I'm just trying to put good into the world. And also, like I said before, I have not actually read this book. I have no idea what it's about. I don't know the angle. I don't know if it's good. It could be terrible. I have no idea. Oh, I forgot to say who it was from. Dr. Dan B. Allender, if that's how you say it. Forwarded by Larry Crabb. So, I mean, I'll put it in the description too. And this is like part 1B. So, like, yeah, I'm just kind of picking up. So I feel like I didn't really need a big description in the beginning. But anyways, like, I can tell it's like, ooh, if it's spiritual and like godly and everything, some people may get really offended and they may not want to listen. And that's okay. Like, I am not saying you have to believe everything in this book. We're just reading it for fun. And maybe I'll read more in the future that'll have like a completely different angle. But yeah. So if it's triggering, please feel free to turn it off. And if you get something out of it, awesome. But I am experiencing this for the first time with you because I was never a huge reader. Anyways, here we go. Our motivation to change, however, is more than just dissatisfaction with an empty life. We are motivated by the goal that draws all believers. The Apostle Paul talked about the end point as a crown of righteousness. See 2 Timothy 4:8. Sorry. Paul was willing to be proud. Paul was willing to be poured out like a drink offering, to fight the good fight, and to finish the race, because he knew his hunger for the Lord's appearing would be rewarded with the prize of the Lord's commendation. To be greeted by the Lord with the prize of his well done embrace was a reward that supplanted the ordinary concerns for comfort. The person who desires to deal with the wounds of past abuse will not feel courageous, nor will there be the immediate exultation of starting out on a new journey. The bonds on the soul will not quickly be freed or broken, or will not be quickly freed or broken. What then is the reason for moving forward? The goal of God's embrace? Again, the answer is a hunger for more. God has made us with a natural desire to be as he is, alive, righteous, pure, passionate, loving. To honor, just another bookmark, it's fine. Let's see. To honor what God has called us to be is the reason a man or woman chooses the path of change. The tragedy is that the adult who wants to deal with his or her past sexual abuse must be willing to confront an internally and externally fierce battle fought by Christians against other Christians. This sad state of affairs makes change, when it occurs, a supernatural victory of no small proportion. It is imperative that the man or woman who has been abused enters into the battle armed with both an awareness of the cost and a deep conviction that life lived in the mire of denial is not life at all. If the Lord Jesus came to give life and life abundant, then a life of pretense involves a clear denial of the gospel, no matter how moral, virtuous, or appealing that life may seem. What needs to be faced if one is to enter the fray with the hope of change? In simple terms, one must face that there is a war. One must face that there is a war. Okay. One must recognize the enemy, and one needs to know why the battle is to be fought. There is a war. One enters it when one acknowledges the reality of the past abuse. What do you think of that so far? That was page 44. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. That was page 45. We are now going on page 46. And this chunk is called The Reality of War. Still in part B. Yeah, so put in the comments, like, what do you think so far? Is it weird? Is it terrible? I don't know. We'll see. So basically, we need to realize, like, if we want to dive into our past, there's going to be a war. The reality of war. A problem cannot be resolved until it has been faced. A major shift occurs when the words are given to what is known to be true. I have been SA'd. The enormous battle in labeling the truth is difficult to imagine. So I may just say like SA for sexual abuse, because I think like a lot of creators like make it like a different word and stuff, so like they don't get banned or whatever. I haven't ran into that problem yet in any of my videos, but like I don't want to either. Like it would suck to have to like redo all these, because like I need to leave out some words. So if I abbreviate the SA word, hopefully everyone knows what that means. But yeah, it's basically sexual abuse. So I'll just say SA or something, or I'll just make it rhyme with something or whatever. Anywho, the enormous battle in labeling the truth is difficult to imagine. A woman I worked with for over a year recently joined an incest survivors group. Oh, I was like really scared what they were gonna say. I was like, all right, this is like a Christian author. You never know like what is going on. So I was thinking like, like it's like a fun group or something, but no, it's probably like Survivor. Sorry, I was like, ew, these are weird Christians already. My bad. Okay, you never know though. Like honestly, like if this is like coming from the religious angle, then it can be a little bit scary on how they would say like how to deal with abuse. So it's curious. So let's just hang on tight, bear with me, and let's see where this goes. So a woman I worked for over a year recently joined an incest survivors group. She was reluctant to do so even though our work had concentrated on the effects of the abuse. She confessed that the difficulty was in admitting to herself that her only reason for joining the group was because she had been abused. I mean, that's fair. Like it's really awkward and it's embarrassing. You like walk into the group like, hey, and like everyone knows like what happened instantly. Although I must say, like if I can interrupt for a sec, when I first like came out about my abuse, if you will, publicly or within the family, I had a really hard time actually finding groups. So like I was talking to like one of those kind of a crisis counselors, and it was called Rave, but it was basically like relief after a violent encounter. And I was sort of needing help with my ex-husband as well, at the same time dealing with this whole SA from my past. And like there really wasn't a lot of people that I could talk to about SA. Like I didn't have like local groups in town that like met every week, like AA or something. And so like maybe someday, hopefully in the future, there will be more groups like that can like physically meet in your area, because I think that would be really cool, especially if it was like just like a free thing where what is on my chin? Okay, like especially if like people could do it locally and it'd be a free thing where men and women could just meet up and actually talk about it. I think that would be cool. But there's just so much that is involved with it that you just have to be really careful. Like if it's not ran by an actual counselor or therapist or someone licensed, it could get really out of hand really fast just because it's such an emotional thing. So it's like, it would be cool to just like have a meetup, but anyways, I just know that when I first started talking to people about it and my counselors, they were like, oh, I don't really know if like a support group, like they just really didn't have like resources around me. So if you guys have that, like maybe that's what could be helpful just while I'm thinking about it as we're reading this. If you in the comments, anybody, or on Facebook, if you see this, if you have like local resources where like, hey, there is a local SA group that meets, once a week or once a month or something like that in your area, please put it in the comments because I don't know of a lot of those that exist. And if you've been to them and they were like totally bad news and maybe like there's like, I don't know, not a good idea, or you've had like a bad experience, let us know that too. So that way we can all learn like collectively as adults, like where could we meet? Like what could people do in their towns? Because a lot of us are really far away from each other because it's like states and countries apart. So yeah, just let us know goods and bads about it if you've experienced it, if you've gotten to join one. Yeah, and if anyone wants to create one, definitely let us know too. That would be cool. Yeah. Anyways, let's get started again. All right. She confessed the difficulty was in admitting to herself that her only reason for joining the group was because she had been abused. Even though our conversations over the past year were largely about her past abuse, and even though she had always had clear memories of the events, she had avoided fully acknowledging that she had been abused. What? I had always been amazed at the reluctance to face the data ahead until what? Okay. Sometimes I'm like, am I slow? I had always been amazed at the reluctance to face the data head on. Oh, the data head on. Okay, the data in her brain, like to face it head on. I was like, what are you saying? Until I had an encounter with a good friend. I had been involved in working with abused people for over a year when I conducted a seminar on the topic. At the seminar, I was asked by several people if I had ever been abused. My answer was always no. The good friend who heard me teach asked the same question. I answered in the same manner. He probed and asked if I had ever been in a situation where I felt sexually uncomfortable, awkward, or debased. My answer was so quick, it surprised me. Well, of course. He asked me the details, and in moments I recalled forced masturbation at a camp, and I had attended as an adolescent a homosexual invitation I turned down in Boy Scouts, and a sexual assault that occurred at a football camp. He looked at me with stunned sorrow and said, "Doesn't that fit your definition of SA?" I was dumbfounded. It was not that I had entirely forgotten those events, but I would never have allowed them to be labeled with a word that might open the door to further exploration. I mean, that makes sense. Like, I didn't really put my abuse as like abuse for a really long time. I just thought it was just something that happened and something that it was just my like big secret, you know? So like putting it in a certain category can make it actually feel worse. So, and then it's like almost like awakening the trauma where before you were like, I'm just surviving, I'm gonna make it. And then you're like, wait a minute, I'm a victim of abuse. And then you're just like, I don't know, something does sort of make it worse sometimes, in all fairness. I totally get it. So there's a deep reluctance to begin the process of change by admitting that damage has occurred. A woman recently came to see me for the sole purpose of determining whether she had been sexually abused. I'm gonna forget to like but whatever. Like YouTube, be nice. I'm trying to help people. She was reluctant. She was well educated, bright, and competent. Many knew her as a no-nonsense, reasonable woman. She shyly informed me that after explaining her purpose in seeking help, that for 14 years she had been taken to a nudist colony by her parents. Each summer, the clothed community was invited to attend a nude beauty pageant. This is saucy. During the pageant, she was forced to pose in various positions. Ew. Some pornographic. For an entire evening, her soul died. She was mortified in being associated with her parents' nudity at home and at the colony. But even worse, she despised that annual evening when hundreds of men would gawk and slobber over the sight of her developing body. Ew. Again, I was stunned. Could she really be asking if she had been abused? Was the record not 1,000% clear? I mean, sometimes it's not. Like, if you just grow up like that, like, you don't know. You don't know until you know. A woman who was essayed by her father, uncle, and grandfather agreed she was harmed by their behavior, but was reluctant to call it SA. Her father and uncle forced her to have oral sex with them. Her grandfather would exhibit himself in front of her. What? Exhibit? Okay, moving on. She said with great sincerity, if I had been ARD, I would call it abuse. But all they did was what a dozen other men have done to me over the years. Why? So why should I call it abuse? That's sad. What is SA? It seems that many people operate with the principle that whatever happened to them is not abuse. But if it happened to someone else, or if it had been a bit more extreme, which I totally get, like, I always felt like, well, like, there was no gun, or like I wasn't tied up, and like it's not like violent in the movies, or like SVU where like they're like chopped up afterwards, or like they're just left like tied up like a pig or something, then it's like, oh, it wasn't that bad, you know? Like I totally get like excusing it a little bit, or like downplaying it a little bit, especially if you're like used to different levels of abuse. You're like, oh, this one wasn't that bad, this one was pretty bad, but not that one. And you know, I know a lot of IFB members like totally can relate to that, because they're so abused by multiple people in their lives. And it's like the SA one might not even be as bad as maybe their beatings from their parents, or having to take ice baths, or standing on a wall for 8 hours. So depending on like the situation, they may not consider that abuse, you know, which is sad and scary and creepy, you know. Moving along. It seems that many people operate in the principle that whatever happened to them is not abuse. I already read that, sorry. But if it had happened to someone else, blah, 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 a bit more extreme. My mother was always parading around the house without any clothes. And, okay, I missed a part, sorry. So then it would have been abuse. One man literally said, my mother was always parading around the house without any clothes. She would often ask me to fasten her bra or check her legs for bruises. I know it was inappropriate, but how could that be abuse? Because of this kind of confusion about what constitutes SA, it is imperative to have a clear definition. Sorry. It would be really confusing, especially if it's like a parent or a relative you don't know, and some of it you think is like actual love, and that's why I think so many people get away with it for so long, is because some of it's like, oh, this is nice, or oh, this is like loving, or you know, they're just being a parent. And especially with kids, like you just don't know until you know. So please hold. SA is any contact in interaction, visual, verbal, or psychological, between a child, adolescent, and an adult when the child, adolescent is being used for the S stimulation of the perpetrator or any other person. SA may be committed by a person under the age of 18 when that person is either significantly older than the victim, or when the perpetrator is in a position of power or control over the victimized child, adolescent. When the SA is perpetrated by an adult or older child who is a blood or legal relative, it constitutes incest or intrafamilial SA. There are two board categories of abuse: SA contact and S interactions. S contact involves any type of physical touch that is designed to arouse S desire, physical or psychological, in the victim or the perpetrator. All right, I'm going to stop there. I'm at the top of page 48. So that ends part A, B, and then the next one will be C. So yeah, page 48 is where I'll pick up next time. So let me know what you all think. I'm just going to do short readings of this, and then some days if I have more time, maybe I'll make them longer. But we're just kind of still like feeling this out, seeing how it goes, seeing if you guys love it or hate it. But let me know what you think so far in the comments, and we will be back to it next time. Bye. The two proud me and